And I was wrong last time about the verse, so I see no harm in repeating verses. Maybe start with 4 just in case.
That will all be up to you. You can do as you like. Once I get everything set up, I won't be available anymore. So I'm waiting for it to do the live streaming. Okay, it seems to be working. Okay, now what I'm going to do is make Madhupati Prabhu the host. And then hopefully it should still continue the live stream and host. Okay. And then Madhupati Prabhu, if for any reason you want to stop being a host and somebody else can be host, then you can make them a host by going to, you click on their name. Okay, I'm sure you know how to do it.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, somebody needs to lead the kirtan, and I will sign out, and you can carry on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. I'm sorry we had this problem, but it can't be helped.
Yeah, hope the power lines return soon.
Okay. And I think that's it. Yeah, they said we won't have internet until tomorrow morning, so.
Uh-huh.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody will like to do kirtan?
How about Saraswati Devi? I don't know if I've heard your kirtan you've read before. Are you available to lead the opening kirtan?
Yes, just give me a second if you don't mind.
Okay.
And please don't forget to announce the date, which I'll do right now. It is Monday, June 3rd, and on the East Coast of the United States. And welcome everybody to Srimad Bhagavatam reading with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends. And hosting is Madhupati Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Haribol.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Mananatimandarshya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshulmitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So we are going to start with 332.4. Also, let me see if I can make Radesh Prabhu co-host. Okay. So I will start reading. This is from chapter 32, text number 4. The chapter is titled, let's see, what's the title? Entanglement and Fruitive Activities. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Kritas Jayadvaita Swami Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimad Bhagavatam Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Gauravadi Prachane Nivse Sunivadi Paschata Deshatavine. Yada Chahindra Sayam Sete Ananta Asano Hari Tada Lokalayam Yanti Ta Eta Griha Medinam. Translation. All the planets of the materialistic persons, including all the heavenly planets such as the moon, are vanquished when the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari goes to his bed of serpents, which is known as Ananta Shesha. The materially attached are very eager to promote themselves to the heavenly planets, such as the moon. There are many heavenly planets to which they aspire just to achieve more and more material happiness by getting a long duration of life and the paraphernalia for sense enjoyment. But the attached persons do not know that even if one goes to the highest planet, Brahmaloka, destruction exists there also. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that one can even go to the Brahmaloka, but still he will find the pangs of birth, death, disease, and old age. Only by approaching the Lord's abode, the Vaikuntha Loka, does one not take birth again in this material world. The Griha Medis or materialistic persons, however, do not like to use this advantage. They would prefer to transmigrate perpetually from one body to another or from one planet to another. They do not want the eternal blissful life in knowledge in the kingdom of God. There are two kinds of dissolutions. One dissolution takes place at the end of the life of Brahma. At that time, all the planetary systems, including the heavenly systems, are dissolved in water and enter into the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who lies on the Garbhodaka ocean on the bed of serpents called Shesha. In the other dissolution which occurs at the end of Brahma's day, all the lower planetary systems are destroyed. When Lord Brahma rises after his night, these lower planetary systems are again created. The statement in Bhagavad Gita that persons who worship the demigods have lost their intelligence is confirmed in this verse. These less intelligent persons do not know that even if they are promoted to the heavenly planets, at the time of dissolution, they themselves, the demigods and all the planets, will be annihilated. They have no information that eternal blissful life can be attained. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshulmitanena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So, here Lord Kapila is mentioning about and how all the planets of the materialistic persons, including all the heavenly planets, such as the moon, are vanquished when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, goes to his bed of serpents, which is known as Ananta Shesha. So Srila Prabhupada mentions here about the two kinds of dissolution. That the complete dissolution, which occurs at the end of Brahma's life, which is also 100 years, according to Lord Brahma's calculation. It is 1 day, 12 hours is billions of our years. So, but he also lives his 100 years, and after the end of that 100 years, there is complete dissolution, where all the planetary systems, the 14 planetary systems, dissolves into this Garbhodaka ocean. And everything merges into Garbhodakshai, Vishnu, who is lying on the Ananta Shesha. And then there is a partial dissolution which happens after 1 day of Lord Brahma, which is of 12 hours. So when Lord Brahma goes to take rest, the lower planetary systems gets dissolved. And when he rises again, they come into existence. So the materialistic persons, they try to go to other planetary systems so that they can have longer duration of life and more material happiness. But in this verse, as it's mentioned, that at the end, that will also be annihilated. So there is no permanent eternal bliss in the material realm. Brahma Bhuvana Loke Puna Avartina Arjuna. All the way from Lord Brahma to an insignificant end. Everybody goes to this birth, death cycle of miseries. So there is no happiness on the material realm. Right. So only on the transcendental realm one can now strive for eternal bliss by completely dedicating their life in service of the Supreme Lord. Then they can have eternal happiness. But otherwise, on the material sphere, there is no happiness. Yep. Let's see if anybody else is there. Yep. Jayadvaita Maharaj, Guru Maharaj has not joined. Anybody else has any questions on this or no, realizations which you'd like to share? Yeah, Saraswati Mata.
I'm just wondering about these two different types of dissolutions. The one that takes place at the end after Brahma rises after his night, we know it's the lower planetary systems that are dissolved. But what happens to the inhabitants of those lower planetary systems? Are they absorbed back into Mahavishnu? Because we know at the end of total dissolution, all the living and conditional living entities are absorbed into Mahavishnu. But what takes place with this partial dissolution? What happens to those inhabitants? Hare Krishna.
Very good. Yeah, I am so aware of that. Means that the total dissolution, everything goes back into the body of Mahavishnu. In the purport, it's mentioned going in the body of Garbhodaksha Vishnu, but yeah, ultimately to Mahavishnu for complete dissolution. So Same way in the partial dissolution, they will be in the transient state. Would go back into the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. I cannot say for sure because I don't know the reference of that. But I would think that they will go back to the body of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, from where the 14th planetary system comes into being to begin with. From the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, in each universe, the 14th planetary system comes from its navel, from the stem of this lotus flower. Does anybody else would like to share?
Well, thank you for your answer, but I was also thinking, what is the purpose of all of that? Is that a sign of sort of punishment to those inhabitants in the lower planetary systems? Because now the time for them to reform themselves and become perfect in Krishna consciousness is taken away. Because I imagine if they're going to be in this transient inactive state, then of course there's not going to be any opportunity to progress in spiritual life. So it's sort of taking away this time away from them. Whereas the inhabitants of the upper planetary systems, of course, they're going to have a longer frame of time in order to become perfect. Hare Krishna.
Mm-hmm. Well, basically, the dissolution, the partial dissolution or complete dissolution would occur at a specific time, as it is mentioned that our partial dissolution after 12 hours of Lord Brahma's life, right? Means after his one day, that partial dissolution occurs, and complete dissolution after his 100 years. So at that time, in whatever state the living entities are in, it becomes transient for the temporary time till the next creation, so to say, right? Or like when the next day of Lord Brahma begins. So till that particular time, they're in the transient state. So before that time, they have an opportunity to go back to Godhead by serving the Supreme Lord. Is that all right, Mother?
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? Or would like to read the next verse number 5? Oh, Venkatesh had some chat. The time passing in all the universe at the same rate, is that duration equal from Mahavishnu breathing out to breathing in? Yep, good question. Breathing out to breathing in would be at the same rate, right? Now, the bubbles which are there of this different material universe, they could be of different sizes, right? That's why each material universe is of different size, and according to that size, we have number of heads of Lord Brahma. Our material universe in which we are in, the size is such that Lord Brahma has 4 heads, but we have references where Lord Brahma has multiple, more than 4 heads, when that size of that material universe is bigger. So, is that all right, Venkatesh Prabhu? Panchatattva Prabhu, would you like to read verse number 5?
Sure. 332.5.
Yeah.
Yes sutaman naduyanti dhira kamarta hitave nisanga nyasta karmana prashanta sudachetasaha. Those who are intelligent and are of purified consciousness are completely satisfied in Krishna consciousness. Freed from the modes of material nature, they do not act for sense gratification. Rather, since they are situated in their own occupational duties, they act as one is expected to act. Purport. The first class example of this type of man is Arjuna. Arjuna was a Kshatriya, and his occupational duty was to fight. Generally, kings fight to extend their kingdoms, which they rule for sense gratification. But as far as Arjuna is concerned, he declined to fight for his own sense gratification. He said that although he could get a kingdom by fighting with his relatives, he did not want to fight with them. But when he was ordered by Krishna and convinced by the teachings of Bhagavad Gita that his duty was to satisfy Krishna, then he fought. Thus he fought not for his sense gratification, but for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Persons who work at their prescribed duties, not for sense gratification, but for gratification of the Supreme Lord, are called nisanga, freed from the influence of the modes of material nature. Nyasta karmanaha indicates that the results of their activities are given to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such persons appear to be acting on the platform of their respective duties. But such activities are not performed for personal sense gratification. Rather, they are performed for the Supreme Person. Such devotees are called prashanta, which means completely satisfied. Shuddha cetasa means Krishna conscious. Their consciousness has become purified. In unpurified consciousness, one thinks of himself as the Lord of the universe. But in purified consciousness, one thinks himself the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Putting oneself in that position of eternal servitorship to the Supreme Lord and working for him perpetually, one actually becomes completely satisfied. As long as one works for his personal sense gratification, he will always be full of anxiety. That is the difference between ordinary consciousness and Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timaranda Shagananjana Salakaya Chakshomritamyana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So the general principle in material life is to just work for our own sense gratification, whether extremely selfish or whether a matter of extended selfishness. Extreme selfishness would be, this is all for me, it's all mine, and I'm taking it all. Extended selfishness is for myself, for my family, for my community, for my country, for my planet. But all of these fall in the category of sense gratification. Even those persons who seem to be on the platform of great philanthropy and extended works for the benefit of others, there's still an element of sense gratification because they're considering themselves to be the benefactor of others when the real prime benefactor is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. If I claim to be that person who's benefiting others, if I claim to be the great benedictor of all others, then that's just another usurping of the position of Krishna. Now, that doesn't mean that in our daily course of activities, we don't act in a way which is beneficial to others, but we have to know what gives benefit. And has been explained by Srila Prabhupada all over the pages of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and throughout his books. The way we give benefit to others is by helping them to understand who that person, who's the beneficiary of all activities of the living entities, who's actually the true friend of all living entities, that person is Krishna. It's not me, it's not you. Unless, of course, we're acting as representatives of Krishna. We don't have that. We don't participate in that function. However, what we end up doing is claiming it all for ourselves, for our own enjoyment. And that's the big mistake. It's like terribly simple when you think about it. But the application is where we tend to stumble, because, I mean, like, we want to do everything for Krishna, but how do we actually gauge that? I can, as a devotee, amass hordes of wealth, a fabulous mansion, and, so many friends and so many admirers and so forth. But the real bottom line is, am I being a devotee because I want to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead and sacrifice everything in the Lord's service? Or am I kind of on the edge still? There are different levels of devotional service, different levels of mixed devotional service. So we are entreated by Srila Prabhupada and by the Acharyas to come from the level of mixed devotional service, or impure devotional service, if you will, service that's tainted by so many material desires, to a higher and higher platform. That's not to say that Krishna does not appreciate the approaches of persons who have such material desires and who are trying to chant Hare Krishna, and that he counts them all. He feels very generous towards them. He likes them because he counts them as pious. You can read about it in the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But what it means is Krishna is going to help make arrangements, if we're sincere, to come to a purer and purer stage of service. Arjuna is being given here as the prime example of someone who does not act for their sense gratification. I mean, Arjuna is a Kshatriya. He's putting his life on the line, but he's not doing it to gain a kingdom. He was under illusion by Krishna's arrangement at the beginning of the pages of Bhagavad Gita, thinking that I can't do this because it's just going to be for my sense gratification. But when he came to understand that this was Krishna's desire, and he came to understand Krishna's position in toto as the supreme beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme enjoyer, and the supreme friend of all living entities, then he engaged in Krishna's service wholeheartedly. And he did the same thing that he was by nature accustomed to do. He was by nature a military man, a Kshatriya, martially spirited personality. If you read Mahabharata, you find so many engagements in which Arjuna excels as a man of great valor and distinction on the battlefield. But still, he was thinking at the onset of the Battle of Kurukshetra that, man, I do not want to be here. I do not want to see friends and relatives die. I can't think that I could even enjoy this kingdom, because he was still thinking like that. I'm going to be the enjoyer of this kingdom, and I don't want to be the enjoyer of this kingdom. And Krishna, he alleviated his illusion in so many ways, so that Arjuna could understand by various arguments that he's actually not supposed to act for his own benefit, but for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who, by so doing, when the living entities engage in that way, they all benefit. It's such a reciprocal relationship. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Anybody else would like to comment or has any questions on that? Otherwise, we'll go to the next verse. Radesh Prabhu, are you back?
I'm just on the road. I'll only be driving for another 4 or 5 minutes here.
Okay.
And then I can jump on. But yeah, if somebody else can take up another verse reading, that would be great.
Okay.
It looks like Radesh Prabhu has added a comment there in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Radesh Prabhu added a comment on Venkatesh Prabhu's question about different times in different universe. And he quoted that the partial dissolution of the universe that takes place at the end of Brahma's day does not affect all the planetary systems. The planets of highly learned living entities like the sages Sanak and Bhrigu are not affected by the dissolutions of the millenniums. All the planets are of different types and each is controlled by different Kala Chakra or schedule of eternal time. The time of the Earth planet is not applicable to other more elevated planets. Therefore, Vidura herein inquires about the duration of life on other planets. Does that that's
I suppose that the reason I put that up is just because I'm curious about time. Sorry, am I cutting you off, Madhupati Prabhu?
no.
My
Go ahead.
internet might be slow. No, I was just curious about these different forms of time. You know, if their lives are experienced according to their 100 years, from their point of view, does it feel much longer than us experiencing our 100 years? It must, because we hear so much about how extraordinarily long their lives are. But I'm wondering if it's only extraordinarily long because we view it from our perspective, whereas from their side, maybe it only feels like 100 years.
That's there. That no, it's according to our viewpoint and our calculations of time. Our 100 years. No, we feel that as 100 years, but just like a Srila Prabhupada gives the example of the insect. No, they also live 100 years. But we see that no, at night time they come and in the morning they're all dead according to our vision. So from our vision we see that their lifespan is very short, but according to their calculation it's 100 years. So similarly, higher planetary systems like the demigods or even Lord Brahma, according to their calculations 100 years, but from our calculation of our time frame, it's billions of years. So different time frame, right? Yeah. But I think the question was also on in different material universes created by Mahavishnu's exhalation. The different material universe is created. So time not only on the material universe in which we are in, but that other material universe would have, I would assume a different time frame.
It's hard to wrap our puppy brains around it all. When even Lord Brahma himself, was so, as you mentioned, Madhupati Prabhu, Brahma has so many more heads, thousands of heads. What must a universe like that? What would that construction even look like? It's pretty fascinating to think about. But I suppose our speculations can only take us so far.
That's true. Okay. Anybody else will like to read the next verse, verse number 6? Any volunteers? Okay. Tulsi Toshini Mataji, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm in the temple, so there's other persons, but I hope you all hear them. So I'll start. Translation: by executing one's occupational duties, acting with detachment and without a sense of proprietorship or false egoism, one is posted in one's constitutional position by dint of complete purification of consciousness. And by thus executing so-called material duties, he can easily enter into the kingdom of God. Purport. Here the word nirataha means constantly engaging in executing religious activities for detachment. There are two kinds of religious performance. One is called pravriti dharma, which means the religious activities performed by the Tuma and Grihamedis for elevation to higher planets or for economic prosperity, the final aim of which is sense gratification. Every one of us who has come to this material world has a sense of overlordship. This is called pravriti, but the opposite type of religious performance, which is called nivritti, is to act for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Engage in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, one has no proprietorship claim, nor is one situated in the false egoism of thinking that he is God or the master. He always thinks himself a servant, that is the process of purifying consciousness. With pure consciousness only can one enter into the kingdom of God. Materialistic persons in their elevated condition can enter any one of the planets within this material world, but all are subjected to dissolution over and over again. So, yeah, if I read again the translation, my understanding is that by executing one's occupational duties, acting with attachment, without a sense of proprietorship, like giving up fruitive, like the fruits of what your action. I don't know if it's also like being in the mode of goodness that brings you like an easier way to be receptive to the Krishna consciousness. But anyway, Prabhupada does not explain it that way at all. I'm sorry, I'm just like, I think I'm speculating. But yeah, so he explains basically like there's duties may be according to Vedas, but are fruitive activities and religious activities that are like detached of the fruits and ego identity, false ego identity, and are just please the Lord. So, and it reminds me how like someone were asking this morning in class, like how come Krishna does not talk to us? Well, we have to be purified to have him, like to hear his voice, right? So detach of material desires and material conception of oneself, as it explained as it is explained here. Yeah, this is it for me. Anything else to add? I'm sorry, I don't have anything else to add. So if anyone else,
Yeah. Anybody else would like to add anything? Saraswati Mata?
Yes, I was just really wanting to say in today's modern world, it's all about instant gratification without expending much energy, just instant gratification. That's what everyone in the modern world wants. I mean, here we're really reading about Grahemedis who are willing to even perform some religious activities in order for elevation to a higher planet, although, I mean, it's classified as pravriti dharma. But at least they're willing to put in some effort. it's not instant gratification that they're madly after. And I seem to recall, I think, reading that in the Pravritti Marg, it's sort of nectar in the beginning, but it all turns into visha, poison at the end, whereas the Nivritti Marg, it might seem really difficult and not necessarily poisonous in the beginning, but definitely really, really difficult struggle. But at the end of that Marg, there is nectar in the form of pure Krishna consciousness. So I was just thinking about, no matter how difficult the Nivritti Marg might seem in the beginning, we're all struggling, well, I am, that there is a goal at the end, and that Krishna is seeing any effort that we're trying to make on a daily basis to try and become more surrendered and more focused on understanding that we are an eternal servitor of Krishna. He's appreciating that, he's noticing that, and he is helping us. So there is a definite goal to this Nivritti Marg. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. I think there was something in the chat. Venkatesh was asking which verse from Bhagavad Gita translate similarly to these words. 332.7, now 336.
I think he may mean 6.
Okay. So, Radhesh, your answer is 271 for that? 6 or 7?
At least it says nirmamo nirahankara sashantam adhigachati. So the path of the pravritti path, it may feel like you get some shanti or even better, something on the positive spectrum, but actually it's only suffering can come from that, just cycling up and down, up and down. But nirmamo nirahankara, that person who is free from the sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. So that's our key to success, giving up desires for sense gratification. Or as I mentioned in a previous class, that really nice quote from B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, to become slaves of love. So on both sides, whether on the what is that? Anvaya Vyatireka Abhyam, both directly and indirectly, both positively, looking for Krishna Prem, and indirectly by avoiding those paths which give us trouble, avoiding those things which can slow us on our path. We get that ultimate success, as was being stated by many of you today.
Good. Rajesh Prabhu, would you want to go with the next words?
Sure. Yeah. We'll take a look at the 7. Surya dvarena te yanti purusham vishvato mukam paravaresham prakritim ashyotpatyanta bhavanam. Through the path of illumination, such liberated persons approach the complete personality of Godhead, who is the proprietor of the material and spiritual worlds, and is the supreme cause of their manifestation and dissolution. The word Surya Dvarena means by the illuminated path, or through the sun planet. The illuminated path is devotional service. It is advised in the Vedas not to pass through the darkness, but to pass through the sun planet. It is also recommended here that by traversing the illuminated path, one can be freed from the contamination of the material modes of nature. By that path, one can enter into the kingdom where the completely perfect personality of Godhead resides. The words Purusham Vishvatomukam mean the supreme personality of Godhead, who is all perfect. All living entities other than the supreme personality of Godhead are very small, although they may be big by our calculation. Everyone is infinitesimal, and therefore in the Vedas, the Supreme Lord is called the Supreme Eternal amongst all eternals. He is the proprietor of the material and spiritual worlds, and the supreme cause of manifestation. Material nature is only the ingredient because actually the manifestation is caused by his energy. The material energy is also his energy, just as the combination of father and mother is the cause of childbirth. So the combination of the material energy and the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of the manifestation of the material world. The efficient cause, therefore, is not matter, but the Lord himself. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I see this word illumination. I think that eyes of knowledge. We're being given this sort of physical manifestation, this Surya Dvarena through the sun planet. But we understand, tamasoma jyotirgamaya. It can also apply to this understanding that see with eyes of knowledge. What can our mundane senses actually achieve? What are we actually capable of perceiving within this world? We have to see through the eyes of Shastra. We have to take the illuminated path, following the words of Guru. But that aside, more esoteric things aside, it also seems to literally be saying the illuminated path through the sun planet. Now, I can't speculate much on the topic. I just remember being in His Grace Gopi Pranadhan Prabhu's school, and he was so vastly learned. But when these kind of topics would come up, he would never sort of make something up unless he had the Shastric proof. And I was discussing that with Panchatattva Prabhu the other day. So I don't want to fall victim of the error of speculation, because for me to understand, what exactly that entails, passing through the sun planet, maybe we could, or someone, or each of us individually could maybe look through Bhagavatamrta, maybe on Gopakumar's travels, maybe he passes through the sun planet and can get some more in-depth ideas there. I'm not sure. I don't recall if that was part of it. But yeah, what exactly that means to not pass through darkness, but to pass through the sun planet. It's being recommended, but how that actually manifests, I'm not sure. But the point is clear, that liberated persons are approaching the complete personality of Godhead. They're not approaching the temporary material nature. They're taking the higher path. And for us, that manifests, if we're going to be appropriate to the time. In Kali Yuga, we have Kaler Dosha Nidiraja. It's an ocean of faults, but we're being granted this one beautiful gift, the path of illumination that's Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nijasarva Shaktis. The Lord has invested all of his potencies into the holy name. And so we have this supreme path of illumination, this very wonderful opportunity to chant the Lord's names. And then we don't have to worry about the specifics of how one makes it through the sun planet, or how one traverses the material world. We leave that to Krishna. We leave that to the mercy of the spiritual master. His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj, one time I asked him his advice on how I can properly serve Guru Maharaj. And he said, follow 4 regs, chant your 16 rounds every day for the rest of your life, and your life will be perfect. So we're so fortunate that we get to sort of dodge the more complicated esoteric nature of Shastra and just take that direct path. But I'm happy to hear all of your thoughts. Oh, here we've got a question from Murari Gupta Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is a technical question, so it may not have a simple answer. Time is measured by the movements of the planets. So 100 years is approximately 36,000 days, and days are measured by the rising and setting of the sun. So how does an insect on our planet experience 100 years in one day? It may not be exactly 100 years. When Madhupati Prabhu gave that example, the idea is that they're experiencing their lifetime to be the equivalent in terms of experiential consciousness, not necessarily that they're seeing days and years pass in more minor forms. Like even anybody who has a dog, dog owners, they commonly talk about dog years. Now, obviously, the sun is passing the same for a human as it is for a dog. But the dog is living in his experience a lot longer in a shorter period of time. You know, a 14-year-old dog that's a very old dog. So for the bug, it's similarly even more reduced. Madhupati Prabhu mentioned, you know, a bug whose span of life is the course of one day for us. So not necessarily in terms of equivalence and rising and setting of suns, but experiential equivalence. Well, if there's nothing else, I don't think we have time for moving through another verse. What do you say, Madhupati Prabhu? Is it kirtan time?
Yeah.
Who can we volunteer? I'm only just getting out of the car here, and I will not be leading tonight. Oh, we have Panchatattva Prabhu. I nominated you last time, and you passed it to Krishna Kaunteya Prabhu. So I nominate you once more. And if there's any Satya Sankalpa that my desires may be realized, then
Oh, come on.
Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajacharya Astotra Satta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajacharya Astotra Satta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Saraswati Devi and Panchatattva Prabhu, for kirtans, and thank you, Madhupati Prabhu, for pulling together hosting at the last second there, and all of you for participating. I know it's not always as much fun without Guru Maharaj, but it's an opportunity to sift through these topics and go ahead and pull out any questions we have and address them later if there's something still unresolved, and an opportunity for us to do a little more research without taking the lazy way out. Although the lazy way is lazy intelligent, so nothing wrong with that. But thank you all so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
All right. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Yeah.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj ki.
Yeah.
And on behalf of Srila Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Yeah.
Gaur Premanande.
Here you go. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol, Hare Krishna. On behalf of Ekendra Prabhu, please distribute the link to this class to whoever you can. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Madhupati Prabhu. I hope all is going well. In Plainfield, New Jersey.
Plainfield, New Jersey. This coming Saturday is Nyakla Theatre. Everybody's
Yeah, are you going to be there?
Yes.
My wife and daughter will be there. I can't make it, but they will be coming.
Yeah, very good.
Is Guru Maharaj going to be there?
No, he's coming here day after tomorrow to my home. But somehow his paper got accepted. So he's flying out on Friday to Chicago.
Oh,
For a
okay.
presentation on that paper. So
What paper is that?
yeah, I don't know all the details of
Oh,
that.
there's something. Okay, no problem.
But he just sent me a message that I have to fly out. Otherwise, no, he was going to on Friday go to Bhakti Center.
Yeah.
To watch the paper of this place, but now
Hi. Okay.
plans are changed.
All right. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Really.